to The Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Volume Podcast Network. I am Chad Millman of the Action Network. Today is our Week 14 episode. We're going to break down the entire slate of NFL games. We'll discuss our exec decision. Our Simon Says we'll narrow down the options for our faves to put into the Favorites Podcast $100,000 Pro Football Pick'em contest. 3-2 this week, folks. We bet on the Broncos last night at -5.5, specifically because we expected Jameis Winston to give it away. Alas, that is exactly what happened, only not exactly as we saw it playing out. We will unpack that quickly. Live from our Tommy John Home Studios, I'm joined as always by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF, professional bettor. Hello, Simon.
Yeah, I don't think there's a quarterback better to us in the league, Chad, than Jameis Winston. Like, anytime we need him to show up for us, he shows up in the biggest way. And I don't know if you remember this, but I don't know, was it 4 years ago? We came in 24th place. We basically needed to go 5-0 in this contest. Whatever it was, 5,000 people were in it. Me and Chad needed a 5-0 weekend. Our last game came down to Winston versus Matt Ryan. We had Atlanta -3.5. They're up 3. Winston's driving, and he threw a pick 6 to go 30 for 30. In that season with Tampa. That's and right. Got us to 24th place, which was like big money for us at that time. So, yeah, Jameis has always been good to us with his pick sixes.
So look, we've talked about that, and we're going to dig into that in a second. I do want to say I have very big news. Very big news. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before. It's no joke when I say that my beautiful bride really has no idea what I do in my third floor office. Honest to God. She's vaguely familiar that we do a podcast, but she is supportive in the exact right way. And Simon, it's a way that I want someone to support you one day, my much, much younger brother. It's the way that I know Matt Mitchell and his brilliant and beautiful wife supports him as well. If I say to my wife, let's leave our happy life in New Jersey with close friends, 2 young kids, not too far from her parents who are taking care of the young kids all the time, so I can go be editor-in-chief of a freaking magazine in the middle of Connecticut. She's like, all right, that sounds good. Did she read the magazine? Never. Did I care? Not at all. When I said, let's leave ESPN and let's go start this cockamamie sports betting media business that has a 95% chance of failure. Oh, by the way, I have to be in New York City 2 nights a week. She was like, cool. But does she listen to our stuff? Not at all. That's all you need, Simon. You just need someone who says yes to the big stuff and you don't sweat the small stuff. This past weekend, I don't know what got into her, but she came to me after walking the dog. She says, hey, I listened to your podcast. I'm like, oh, what'd you think? And her response was classic. She goes, I can see why people like it. You guys are fun together. I don't think we're going to get higher praise than that from Stacy, who you've met. If nothing else, she knows that we have a show. That's big.
Yeah, I'm just shocked she actually listened to it.
I'm shocked too, and I'm happy to take it. Then she, by the way, she went back through previous episodes to see if we ever talked about her. She was disappointed to know that we hadn't. On the off chance, I'm not going to tell her, on the off chance she ever listens to the podcast again, maybe soon, she can listen to this episode, know that she's been acknowledged. There you go. Thank you, Stacy. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. And now new Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code Favorites, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia. We're 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. All right. Quickly on the Jags and Broncos, because those are 2 games we won this past weekend in which we, on the surface, got pretty lucky with backdoor covers, right? The kind of games that we have not won much this year. And it's worth noting how they were both random and completely predictable. We thought the Jags with Trevor Lawrence as home dogs in the division, getting the hook were a good spot. Instead, it was Mac Jones with back-to-back career drives, getting the back door, losing by 3. We had it at 3.5. Just like we planned it. We thought the Browns and Jameis were due to pull a Jameis-like game after their win against the Steelers in snowy Cleveland on Thursday night. Jameis goes off for nearly 500 yards, 4 tutties, has the game of his life. Also, 2 pick sixes and a pick in the Broncos end zone as the game is ending to help us preserve the cover. That is betting at its finest right there.
Yeah, it was all timer, and it was funny too, where they kicked a field goal in Denver, and I was with a lady friend. She goes, "So what does this mean? Like mathematically, like you've lost now?" Because I told her we can't have a field goal, and I said normally I would say yes, but this guy Jameis just loves to turn it over, and she's like, "I don't know." She's like, "I feel like he won't turn it over again." I go, "We'll see." And
Yeah, right?
it was what, I think one play he threw that pick. He's the best. They score. All of a sudden, they're back down on the 1. I explained to her that we had 5.5. I was like, again, if they score here, they're on the 4-yard line right now. They're probably going to score because it's a meaningless touchdown. You were once again going to lose. And James, like you just said, he threw that pick on the 4-yard line. It's just like, God bless this man. It sucks that no team will let him be their quarterback because he is top 5 most exciting quarterback I think in my lifetime watching. He's just so much fun.
The guy just throws darts with no fear. He's
blind.
So fun to watch.
He apparently can't see. Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. This just in. William Vance of the Denver Broncos. I think he just gave up another touchdown as we're talking. My feeling is that if the games are going to play out exactly as we predict, it would be nice if they could just space out the action so it all happens in a seamless, orderly way instead of packing everything into the final 2 minutes. I don't know if you feel that way, but I would like that because then I can just go to bed happy and knowing how it's going to end.
No, I love it. It's the greatest sport on earth, Chad. You'll believe it eventually. It's the greatest sport on earth.
So despicable, so hard to watch. I did go to bed last night with 10 minutes left in the third because it was 10:30 at night. The game was clearly going to go till midnight.
And you were just raging. It was just unreal. Winston was throwing for like 400 yards. I get it.
I mean, it's like it was just too much. I can't, because then you turn it off and you can't fall asleep for 90 more minutes. So
yeah,
I got to get up and I got to do exercise. Time to get to week 14. Green Bay, Detroit. The line has moved from 4 to 3.5. Early money coming in on the Packers. Like based on the season-long stats, this is a fantastic matchup. A power running game for the Packers against a Lions defense that has actually been pretty good against the rush. Lions have an elite running game against a Packers D that is at least better against the rush than the past few opponents the Lions have had. But since September 15th, the Lions have had 15 players go on IR, either for the full season or an extended period of time. I think 13 of those players, 12 of those players on the defensive side of the ball, including half their original starting lineup and the replacements for these starters. Like, this is not the coaching mismatch the Lions have seen in the past few games either. So it's such a hard game to handicap. It really is, because I feel like we don't know who's playing for the Lions.
Yeah, I would say a couple weeks ago would be, but this one feels really easy where you just talked about it. It's like they don't have the defense to get stops. I mean, we saw even in that second half, the Bears looked like a totally different team. It was because the Lions just simply couldn't stop them, right? I mean, Caleb really figured out how to push the ball down the field, and you saw that, all the injuries to their linebackers, it's going to catch up to them. And same with all the guys in their D line. It's like that stuff, you can hide it for a little bit, but eventually, like, we're getting late here, and you guys, I mean, you're in the best division of football right now. This Lions schedule is tough because they're playing all these really tough divisional games here. So 2-3 weeks ago, me and you would automatically have been the Lions here. We do not trust Jordan Love at all. Even if he played well those last couple of weeks, there's still little things he does where it's not the Jordan Love from last year, right? There's just something off about Jordan Love this year. But at this number against a banged up Lions team, how do we not stay in this? Like the back door is always, to me, always going to be open. And the Lions are now going to be in this spot where it feels like the Bengals are in, right? That they're going to need to put up 30 points against these really good offenses if they're going to win these games. So, yeah, 3.5. It does feel a little too easy. That's the scary part. It's like, why is this not at 3? But we'll take the value. I'll take the 3.5 right now while it's still available.
Yeah, the only thing that's giving me any pause at all is that the Lions have been playing without defensive linemen and linebackers all season and finding ways to have a really effective defense in the spots where they need to be most effective. And they've now got a week to figure this out. I mean, part of the reason why they looked so bad against the Bears is because it was happening in real time. And it's hard to just sort of make those adjustments in real time when you're losing a defensive player every other series, if not every series. So I do think that they are so good at coaching and so disciplined and they are so good at finding talent, even though they're picking Jamal Adams up off the street. That's how bad it is. It gives me a little bit of pause because I have so much belief in Dan Campbell and how they coach. That's the only reason.
Yeah, I would say that's fair
Maybe I'm
too.
overthinking.
But we saw when they played early this year, if we talked about it, if you took away that pick 6, the Lions win 17-14. And it's like a really close, ugly game. That's Jordan Love coming off. We're still playing with a bad injury in that game.
That's true.
So it's just, even last year we talked about they played in the Thanksgiving game and it was like, wow, this Green Bay team actually matches up really well offensively against that Detroit defense. And that was when Detroit was healthy last year. And this year, they're not. So I get where you're coming from. Like, we're scared of Lions because we've been betting them so hard and we really like them. But I just think it's all about this number here. And in this divisional matchup, take the 3.5.
I think I'm with you. Let's recap the Week 13 favorites podcast $100,000 pro football pick'em contest. Congratulations to Week 13 first place winner Jason Vliek. Jason went 5-0, and for his Monday Night Football passing yards tiebreaker, he wrote down the maximum of 900 yards. Who knew Jameis was going to throw for 497? That was good enough to win. He takes home the maximum $1,000 weekly prize. Well done. As always, producer Matt Mitchell has selected the Producer's Cup Award to the entry that finished dead fucking last in the contest. This week's Producer Cup goes to Daniel Gate Aniela, who went 0-5 and missed the tiebreaker by almost 600 yards. Pretty good, Daniel. Please email our producer at podcast@actionnetwork.com to claim your prize. I have, Simon, 3 games that I've pinpointed as potential exec decisions. This is one of them. I'm not sure I'm going to land there. New York Jets at Miami, -6.5. This was at Miami, -7 for a hot minute on Sunday, right before we went on the air. Someone hit the Jets and it got to 6.5 at Bet365, which is where it's at. It is now at 6 at a lot of places. Am I going crazy? Like, why is there money coming in on the Jets? We both agree that Miami is the right side here. And now we're getting them at a better number.
Is this your first time, Chad? You know what's happening. This has been, what is it, 9 straight weeks, 7? We've had the Jets be bet on and become the favorite.
That's what I don't get, though. The Jets have been getting money every single week since they fired Robert Saleh. And it's not comprehensible to me. Like, is no one paying attention? Like, since firing Saleh, the Jets are 31st in points allowed per possession, last in EPA per play. Like, it's a terrible team.
Now, if you go through all the numbers, it's like the downgrade from him being a head coach to this guy who's coaching now, it's like they became such a worse team. Like, it's clear Saleh wasn't the problem. But we've talked about, like, these, even the pros I know who I highly respect, Chad, they're hitting the slot. Like, they like the Jets. They like them every week, and they've just been getting burned. And it's like, I don't know. They can't help themselves at this point, right? I think it's like we joke about all the time. They keep hitting black, and they're waiting for that red to come or whatever it is, and it's not hitting for them, right? They've been off, and I'll be patient. I mean, give me Miami 5.5. I'm happy to take that. And we talk about this all the time. Tua at home, this offense, it's different, and they beat up on bad teams. That's what they're good at. So I'm happy to be patient and wait for this one to keep coming down. Like I already told you, I like Miami here. I will not be sucked in on the Jets again. Like last week, like we talked about, they were up 21. Like they had 21 points. And it was whatever it was, 21-6, 21-7. It was lined up perfect for the Jets, and they totally melted down. Like they're one of the more mentally weak teams in all of football. There's no doubt about it. So they're supposed to get up now, traveling down to Miami in this spot. I'm just not buying it. So yeah, I'll be patient here. I'll let this, like you said, you're gonna make an exact decision. I was gonna make this Simon Says, but I agree with you. We've seen this come down from 7 to 6 in most books. Why can we not cross that key number of 5.5 and let me get it? So I'll be patient and wait.
I just made a note that this is a potential foxhole. As you were talking, I'm like, if we think it's getting a 5.5, then let's foxhole it, because we will definitely be on the opposite side of all of the professional bettors. Your point about Tua beating up bad teams as favorites at home, 7-1 against teams with a winning percentage of 250 or less, which is the Jets. And by the way, if anybody is thinking, well, this is in the division, it's a different game, all of those wins have come in the division. He's 7-1 in the division as a favorite in this spot against bad teams. So we're going to be on.
It is bizarre though, the love for the Jets. I'm with you. It is one of the more bizarre things, because it's like
it's cockamamie. Yeah. It's truly insanity.
It is.
It's just doing it again and again and again. It's defined. It's in the freaking dictionary. We'll be on Miami. I'm putting them on the list. It's just a question of what the number is going to be. And if it's below 7, fan freaking tastic. Carolina at Philadelphia. So the number's 12.5. Our first instinct when this was at 13 on Sunday night was take the Panthers. The wise guys have done that. It's pretty much stayed at 12.5. Like, if we were looking to bet them, the best thing that could have happened was them losing in OT and the Eagles beating Baltimore on the road. That's exactly what happened. Like, it is a statement win versus, from a public POV, a statement win versus another loss by another team everyone thinks is terrible. But are we going in on the Panthers?
I can tell you though right now, I feel like this is another line that me and you come Sunday when we're throwing out all of our shit. This is one thing where pop up and you're like, just get it in there. Because we're both going to like it. Why wouldn't we like it? It's way too big of a number for the way this Panthers team is playing. And maybe I'm being sucked in on it because I watched all 22 and Bryce Young, some of his throws, Chad, you're just like, okay, you see why this kid was what he was in college, right? Because I never really understood it. But, you know, if he can throw on the run like he was in that game last week, he can have a career in this league. Like he's really good at something that not a lot of guys are. I mean, even Bo Nix, we'll give him his flowers from last night. Like some of these young guys, the way they can throw, you know, with weird body angles on the move, that's just not something we saw like in the 2000s. Like this is very new age playing style. These guys are just such gifted athletes. So Bryce Young, keep this game close. Like you just said, we're playing a little bit of fire here because he's been so good to us. And the Eagles are, I mean, we have no doubt about it, one of the best defenses in football and one of the best offenses. So if we could cheat, I would love to just take either first quarter Carolina or just take them first half, right? We've seen the Eagles are just a team that comes out slow, but we can't do that here, and it's all about playing the numbers. So at 12, I'm not crazy about it, but I'm hoping, Chad, that the parlays, the teasers tie in the Eagles heavy, and maybe we can get back to that 13.5 in the contest because that to me would be an amazing number to have with this Panthers team. I just think offensively they're going to be able to hang in this game, but my fear is can they get stops defensively because the Eagles team, they're going to be able to have their way with this defense on Carolina.
Yeah, this is a get-right game for Jalen Hurts, right? Like this is just when if there's anything that could potentially keep the Eagles from getting to the Super Bowl, it's Jalen Hurts' inability to be an premier elite playmaker with his arm. Like that's it, right? We can see it in every game. He has these streaks where he's kind of rushed in the pocket. He is inaccurate. He can't find the right receivers. Like that happens, and it's sort of a black hole in every single game. That to me is the biggest question for this Eagles team. But I do love their interior, and we have a bias for physically dominant teams. And Bryce Young, you know, we referenced this on the show on Sunday night. He is like slowly morphing from manager to playmaker. And you're spot on about some of those throws on Sunday night. He had like guys in his face, off his back foot, and just flinging darts. I know exactly the play you're talking about. It was like a 3rd and long. He's off balance, falling back, and nails to the only spot on the field he can complete the pass. And it wasn't by accident. Like you watch the replay and he freaking nailed it. So, here's the problem. Some reality. This Eagles defense has been so dominant the past 8 weeks. Overall, first in passing yards per play, 6th in EPA per pass, 7th in sack percentage, 7th in time to pressure. And by the way, they do all this without blitzing. It's the pressure from the interior linemen. Meanwhile, the Panthers defense, 30th in EPA per play,
Yeah.
6th in yards per rush allowed, 3rd most rushes of 10 plus yards allowed. So it's possible Saquon runs for 500 yards and crosses 2,000 yards for the season and wins the MVP in this game. That's the scare.
Yeah.
But it's on the list. We'll keep it on the list. Here's another one that is on my list of executive decisions. And the third one on my list is so ugly. I don't even know why I've come to this conclusion. But this one is Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Cleveland's at 6.5. Look, we made the mistake last week. I won't do it again. You fade Tomlin in this spot. Okay? Division faves of 6 to 8 points, 48% against the spread. Tomlin is a fave of 68 in the division, just 11 and 14. The only question is, do we think this could get to 7? We didn't do the right thing last week. We're going to do it this week.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's 7. I think this only comes down just because this is what you just talked about. This is like a professional spot. Like we just saw, Jameis have an absolute meltdown on Monday night, burned anyone that bet on him. So even if the public had bet him last night, they're totally off of him altogether, right? This is going to be, all the money is going to be on Pittsburgh in this spot. And the only people betting the Cleveland's going to be professionals. And to me, it's really a fade on, I feel like Russell Wilson. Like, are we really going to get burned by him 2 weeks in a row of him throwing for over 300 yards? Because I do think this is another matchup that I know doesn't look on paper like it'll turn into a shootout, but it does feel like a game that's going to be in the high 20s, which, for this matchup is kind of like a lot of points. The total is 43. I just think Jameis gives his team a whole new identity offensively. Like this, even last night, I felt that with that number was like, that number felt a little like high, right? Like even when we bet it moved to 6.5. At 5.5, I felt like it was right. At 6.5, it was like, okay. The value there shifted to Cleveland at that point.
Yeah.
Same thing feels here, right? Like this should be 4.5, 5. You're saying at Bet365 it's 6.5. At most books it's down to 6. So to me, I'd grab the 6.5 now. I can only see this coming down just because it's just too high of a number for this type of divisional matchup in December. And like you said, Tomlin in these games for some reason they either lose these outright or just play it really close and win by 3 at the end. Doesn't matter when it was Ben Roethlisberger or Mason Rudolph. Like these are just ugly games for Pittsburgh in home divisional games. So I'm with you, Chad. I like the 6.5. You know what? I'll make that Simon Says.
I was just going to say, this
6.5.
feels like you want to say Simon Says.
I had another game I really liked, but fuck, man. Like if it's 6.5 at Bet365, I'd grab that now because a lot of the books here in Jersey are down to 6.
All right, well, good. Then it forces me to make a different decision about exec decision. and what I have for the exec decision, I think it will blow your mind. And after I did my research yesterday, I'm like, do I really feel this strongly about this game?
Oh, God.
I know. It's good. Simon, the final weeks of the NFL season are upon us. Good or bad, this is when reputations are made. And if you want to earn the reputation as an elite gift giver, then you need to give the ultimate gift of comfort and confidence. The gift of Tommy John. Thanksgiving has come and gone, but a cornucopia of comfort can still be yours. Break out those holiday gift lists. Figure out who deserves the perfect gift, the perfect fit, the silky smooth support of Tommy John underwear. Simon, why will you be giving the gift to Tommy John this season?
Because, Chad, it's the gift that lasts.
If you want to be the GOAT, the greatest gifter of all time, head to TommyJohn.com/favorites for 40% off in their Cyber Monday sale. Today is the last day for this incredible offer. These are the lowest prices and best deals of the year, bar none. Save 40% site-wide for a very limited time at TommyJohn.com/favorites. Las Vegas Raiders at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Got away with one this past weekend, had the Panthers against the Bucs at home. If the Raiders don't botch a snap and they kick a game-winning field goal against Kansas City, and the Panthers don't fumble a ball in Bucs territory, or if they make multiple field goals during regulation, or if they score one more touchdown in the red zone and the Bucs lose that game, is this number 7?
I don't know, but I hate that I have to bet the Bucks here. It sucks. I wanted to be on the Raiders, but this
Wow.
is such a Bucks spot where it's like people are overreacting to what just happened last week. We just talked about it. Like Bryce Young played out of his mind. Really, if you go back and watch, it was incredible. Aiden O'Connell is not that guy. Like that Chiefs game to me, we see it every year with them. It's like the flukiest game with the Raiders against that Chiefs team. Like even when Derek Carr was there, they'd play these tight games where they'd upset this Chiefs team. And then when they play against a team like the Bucks, who's like a good playoff contending team, they would just get rolled. Like this is a bad Raiders team. I'm not letting last week throw me off. I know obviously Max Crosby's a difference maker with that defense, but that was like the perfect lineup game for that Chiefs team. On the flip side, the Bucks had the game from hell, but you saw that they changed. Like we talked, the Bucky Irving thing to me is such a game changer for this Bucks team. Like he is so good, and you know Baker had an awful game. They still were able to pull that win out. Baker doesn't have back-to-back terrible games. He just has not been that player this season. Like usually he's week to week, and I expect him to bounce back against a terrible Raiders defense here. So another nut line I'll be patient on. Give me 6.5. Let the public keep hammering this number on this Raiders team because I knew right away when I saw this number, I was like, oh my God, the public is going to hammer that Raiders line. Like they are all in after what just happened last week. But I thought, me and you talked about it said more about that Chiefs team than I thought it said about that Raiders team. So yeah, I'm gonna be patient here, wait for a better number on that Bucks line. But it's 6.5. I'll take that if you can get it now on the Bucks.
I'm surprised to hear you say that. I guess you could look at the Raiders game and think, okay, there's two different things here. They had some mishaps in the red zone. They really should have scored more points early. It's similar to what we just talked about with the Jags and with the Broncos, right? Sort of everything you expected to happen happened in that game. Only instead of it happening through the course of the game and competency, it happened in miraculous moments through two different plays, one to Brock Bowers, one to, I forgot who the other receiver was, on long throws from Aiden O'Connell.
Was it Tucker?
Yeah, Tucker, that got them in the end zone and sort of made the game closer and sort of erased a 13-point deficit. Maybe you're right. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion about this game. I can't.
No, it's fair. I mean, if it's a game we avoid, I wouldn't be mad either because we hate taking huge favorites. But it just feels like a kind of spot where it's like this is the Bucks are going to be undervalued in this spot to me.
I love the Baker Mayfield narrative that's happening. I love the way he plays. I love that he's waving off trainers when he's getting his ankle stepped on and that he's balling out in every game and that this Bucks team loves him so much. And I love that now that there was all these flag planting brawls
Yeah.
in college football this past weekend. Everybody is asking Baker for his opinion. And
Yeah.
He's not even blanching. He's like, teams need to learn how to take an L. You want to plant a flag, and fucking deal with it, losers. I love Baker.
I love him too, but it is funny. Like I was with my cousin, and she does not watch much football, and I had to explain to her that he was taken before Josh Allen, who's just like a god among men. I was like, but you don't get it. He went to like a normal school. Josh Allen went to Wyoming. Like no one goes to Wyoming and becomes the best quarterback in football. But I'm with you. I love Baker, but to the outside world, you're just like, who is this little guy that's got this little attitude? I'm just like, if you love this sport, he is one of the best quarterbacks in it. He's just hilarious.
Oh my God, it's great. You know what's not great? Jacksonville and Tennessee. Tennessee is a 3.5 point favorite. I, I, I don't really have anything here. Like
Yeah, I'm happy to avoid it.
yeah, I
I've
feel
had
like
my fill.
yeah, we should play the Jags, but I feel like
Definitely play the Jags. If you have
there's
to
like
in your pick contest, you had to make a pick here. I mean, Tennessee, they've just burned people all year being favorites. I mean, I remember even early in the year they had a bunch of different matchups. Like that one that really jumps out will always be. I still can't believe we took Tennessee against Malik Willis and Green Bay. Like that was one of my worst bets of the year. Thinking Tennessee was a smart move because they're going to back up in Green Bay. They're just terrible. So yeah, you figure they bounce back here. That's what the books are saying. But yeah, if I have to make a pick on this line, I'll take the +3.5.
are you ready? I'm very curious your take on this game. New Orleans Saints are 5 point favorites at the New York Giants. This line movement got crazy wacky. Opened at 4 Sunday night, immediately bet down to 3.5. And then right around when the Rams Saints game ended, it got bet up to 4, 4.5, then 5, down to 4.5 again in some places. Like, this is kind of fun to me. The Giants will clearly need to run the ball to win this game. The Saints gave up the second most yards per play on the ground. Tyrone Tracy, Giants running back, other than, the cover killing fumbles, has been averaging 5 yards per carry. Only one team gives up more yards per play on the ground than the New Orleans Saints. Are you ready for it? The New York Football Giants. Across every metric, the Giants are the worst rushing defense in the NFL, and the Saints have been excellent running the ball. However, when I dug a little deeper, most of that success is really about Taysom Hill. And when he's been out, this team has really struggled offensively. It's really as much about him as it is Derek Carr. I don't know why, but this is my executive decision. Take the
What
Giants.
what is the New York Giants?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Dexter Lawrence is out for the year, right? He's on the IR.
What if I tell you I forgot before I said that? I knew it and I forgot.
Yeah, I feel like it's a big deal.
I think that's a mistake on my part.
Yeah, don't take this one.
I'm
You got
not
something
doing it.
better. Thank God. Let's just
Oh
avoid
my
it.
God. I like yesterday I had convinced myself that I was taking the Giants. I'm a genius.
I do love with the angle of it. It was my same view last week. Like again, if they didn't have that pick six, they'd probably cover or win that game against Dallas. Like they weren't awful in that game, but that was really about it being a divisional game Thursday. You're just throwing it all against, and it still didn't work out for him here. But to me, the Dexter Lawrence injury is just too much to overcome.
Yeah,
Like
I
that,
totally,
he's their
totally forgot
defense.
about that.
Yeah.
Thank you
Next
for
game.
reminding me. Wow. That could have been bad. Well, now I just want to go back and take Cleveland, but I'll have to move on. But you like my theory otherwise.
I do. I think it's actually like a smart play. Like that Saints team, both these teams are going to be quit on the season. I mean, let's be honest. Like I don't know who's quit more, but yeah, at this point, I would just take the Giants because who the hell are the Saints be catching 5 against anybody? They're a terrible team.
Well, that's my theory. Either way, I'm putting them on the list just in case.
You're sick.
Atlanta at Minnesota. Minnesota -5. A month ago, the Falcons were 6-3. Kirk Cousins had thrown for 2,300 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 picks. Don't forget, 800 of those yards and 8 of those touchdowns came in 2 games against the Bucs. Since then, Falcons 0-3, losses to New Orleans, Denver, and the Chargers. Kirk has thrown 6 picks, sacked 7 times, does not have another touchdown pass.
Yeah, we joked about it. I told you, I felt like everyone in Joe Public in the world was going to be on Atlanta here, and I was just going to have to take the Vikings because it's like the revenge spot, whatever their mentality was for backing them and believing once again in this Falcons team. I'm just totally off Kirk. I've been off Kirk. Like weeks ago, I noticed he just does not look right. And everyone's come around because that was so egregious, that loss, right? I mean, if they had just put Penix in the second half, they win that game, right? Kicking field goals. Like that, the Chargers had nothing going offensively. They were totally out of it. 4 picks. It's inexcusable. So it's like, okay, I guess they're betting on him to bounce back. But you kind of just talked about it. Like, other than those 2 really big games, he's not been good this season. Like, he's been below average, which is not what he should be on that offense. Like, they have one of the better blocking offensive lines. They have great running backs. Drake London, Kyle Pitts. I mean, they're, to me, good receivers. I maybe it's the number that's throwing me off here because it is high, but it's like this Vikings defense that likes to blitz and move guys off their spots, that's Kirk's biggest weakness right now. If you move him any discomfort in the pocket, he folds right now. Or he throws egregious picks. Like he just throws into terrible coverage. And that's what the Vikings thrive on. And now they're going against a guy they know better than anyone else, right? Someone this team has seen him practice for all those years. So it's like, man, if this becomes like, if this becomes a game that stays below 6, I mean, you were trying to figure out favorites here. Obviously, I'd like this more than the Bucs. Like, I just really like the Vikings in this spot. It's all about what kind of number I'm going to get here. So, it's another number I bet, and it's actually gone up at certain books. It was 4.5. It's back up to 5. As long as it stays below 6, I think this is a good number on the Viking team. It's all bad right now for Kirk. If it was, a different matchup, maybe I'd give him some of the benefit of the doubt here. But the fact that it's going against his Vikings defense that's just been so good this year, I can't get around to taking his side.
So you mentioned some really good points. He's facing a defense, Kirk is, that is 4th in sacks, 3rd in QB pressure, 2nd in blitz rate. All the stats that back up what you were just saying about his lack of comfort. And a lot of people would say, well, Bijan is having a great year, and he is much better this year than he was last year. The Vikings top ranked defense for rushing efficiency, top ranked for defending rushes inside the tackles, number 2 defending rushes outside the tackles. In my notes, you just said you're thinking about this number and like, why isn't it higher? That is exactly what I wrote in my notes. I'm like, what? This number feels too low.
Yeah.
It was like that's
what's scaring me, but maybe I'm overthinking it, but it's like, this is a weird number.
Clearly, I was misreading my notes, and I meant this was my exact decision. Not
love it.
I was confused by the order in the schedule and the spread, but I really meant Minnesota -5, not New York Giants +5. This is my exact decision.
This feels like the same thing with the Bills like last week. Like we both loved the Bills, and it was really all about the spot and how this was a bad matchup for the other side. It feels the same thing for here. This is just all really bad matchups for this Atlanta team. So hopefully we have the same results as that Bills game, where it's just like you clearly saw one team was great against defending the run and running the ball down teams' throats. This week, this matchup we just talked about, can Kirk survive that blitz? He is not. He's struggled all year against it. We think the Vikings defense will dominate this matchup.
I'm excited this is my executive decision because
much more than the Giants.
Much more than the Giants because nobody's yelling at me in the chat.
Yeah.
while I'm making the play.
No, I love it. Matt Mitchell's slowly becoming unhinged by our terrible picks. It's great.
Matt Mitchell is getting, for so many reasons, Matt Mitchell is getting grumpier and grumpier.
The man that bets the under 80 last night gets mad at us.
Every single week. He's got so many more reasons to be grumpy. It's Just lovely. Matt, you and I can talk about this in our one-on-one this week. Seattle at Arizona. Arizona is a 2.5 point favorite in this game. Uh, do we think Seattle's defense is better than Arizona's?
I'll give Seattle defense respect. They've definitely gotten better as the season's going along. Where they were a team that I was just like, I thought it was fluky. A couple of their matchups, I was like, it was kind of the teams they were playing. But no, they've been really good down the stretch here. And we kind of heard that was going to be the part, right, of their head coach. It was like it's going to take a while to learn his defense, and we've seen that here. But this is another game where like it was +3 on Seattle. Why wouldn't I take that number, right? I don't know if you feel the same way. These teams are pretty damn even. Like they're good and they can move the ball offensively, but they're terribly inconsistent. And they've had a bunch of games. Both of them have had games where they've easily could have won or lost, and that they're sitting here now. This is going to decide their division, right? This feels like this game here.
Yeah.
The winner here is gonna have the control of their own fate. So Arizona -2.5. Yeah, Chad, you could talk me into it, but once it's 3, I'm going to take Seattle at that number.
It feels like a no lean for me. Home division faves of less than 3, 47% against spread the past 20 years. So like, I don't feel strongly about
Yeah.
this game. I like amazingly, I like Miami -6.5. I like Minnesota -5.
Yeah.
I like the games we have in there more than I like this one.
Yeah, there's some games this week that it's like it's predicated on the number, but I really don't want to get that much action on it. They're just some of these teams are who we think they are, which is just heavily inconsistent, like from week to week.
Then there's the Chicago Bears. They're playing the San Francisco 49ers. They're 4-point dogs on the road in San Francisco. Look, if you like the Bears, I hope you got them on Sunday. When we talked about it, they were at 6.5.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Now it's 4 and probably headed to 3.5. Everything is on the Bears. And I think one team is feeling relieved. They got rid of their head coach that the players hated. I mean, the unpacking of this the past few days as a Chicago sports fan has been like revelatory. It's been interesting. It's been everything that we thought it was, only nobody would say it. And now that it's over, everyone's getting to see the truth, which is that Eberflus was a bad coach who the players didn't like. And then one team is wondering what happened to its season. And now Christian McCaffrey's on the IR again, probably out for the year. Jordan Mason, his backup, who had rushed for almost 1,000 yards in his place, he's on IR, likely done for the year. Like at some point, the value on the Bears, I think, is gone. But I'm not dying to bet this game.
No, and like Trent Williams might be back, but he's dealing with a lot of stuff going on the off field right now. We're thinking of him, obviously, and his family. Like he's going through hell, and
he has and like he's been day to day for 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's injured, right? And it's like they only could take so much. We always talk about this was a team that was very top heavy, right? They were stars and scrubs, and with all these stars out, they're just nowhere near the same team they were last year. And Purdy is totally out of his like comfort zone. Like he has, he's fought through injuries as well, but with all those weapons going and this offensive lineup being what it is, you can just tell he's not obviously the same player as he was these past 2 seasons. So that Bears number 6.5, that was like, what in the world is this number? Yeah, it really was. And it sucks it's come down because I already knew this week the professionals were on the Bears. They've been on the Bears every week for the last feels like 4 weeks. So you knew they'd be on it. I thought, okay, the San Francisco 49ers, even if they lose by 14, I still think the public would come on their side. They have totally jumped ship on this team. Like the public and the professionals now are on this Bears team. So in a normal year, me and Chad would hammer this 49ers team because this is just the spot to take them. This is where you back the books here. But this has not been a normal year. I mean, even last night, like the books desperately needed the Cleveland, right? All the money, every teaser in the world was tied to that team, and it didn't hit. Same with that Bills game. Like, they desperately needed the 49ers. It wasn't even close. It was a blowout. Like, we've just seen this year, the favorites have been kind of prospering in this spot. So, yeah, the public side, it's Joe Public. I know the Bears right now is, but right now, as you sit here right now, I'll take it. But I know I'm going to get some calls about this one, Chad, because I do think the number might have moved too much at this point, and maybe we've missed the value on this Bears team. The value has shifted to the 49ers. but it's still 3.5. It feels like, isn't there still value there? It maybe at 3, I can shift it and lie to myself and say, no, this is when I take the 49ers. But they feel like a team that's totally quit on the season because of everything that's going on. With the Bears, every week they've been in it down to the last play, and they just has not broke their way right these last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I'll take the Bears here. They deserve the respect to have this 3.5.
Well, look, the Bears are certainly going to be rejuvenated by the fact they got rid of their coach, by the fact they feel there might be some competent decision making in the 2 to 3 times when you need it the most from your head coach, game management, clock management, timeouts, etc. They just haven't had that, right? And so they've been playing at a disadvantage. Are they going to be so psyched, have such a good attitude? They're not going to get down from bad mistakes. You're not wrong. This team has been fighting to stay in every game, despite playing with an anchor around their ankles as their head coach, right? I mean, they just have. He makes so many bad decisions. So it's really interesting to me that so many people are buying into that narrative, which to me is when you got to fade it. Like,
Right.
I any other year, you're right. We're hammering the Niners at this point. If you think about the contest, it's going to be 3.5 in the contest. So we just, whatever we want it to get to in real life, and I'd like it to get lower so I can play the Niners, it's going to be 3.5 in the contest. And I would hate to play the Bears here.
Mm.
I think we'd be miserable playing the Bears here.
I don't know. I just think it's, yeah, you're right. You're right. You probably would be.
You know,
Yeah, it's tough.
it's tough.
Especially because like I'm the douche sitting here on the 6.5 tickets where it's like, oh, I can just not even bet this one now. I already got the good number on the Bears, but
Yeah.
we don't play that here. So yeah, I'll definitely have more info on this come Thursday. But right now, as we sit here, I'm with you. It feels like I'm walking into a trap, but I can't help myself taking the Bears here.
It's fascinating. You're not wrong about Brock Purdy either. What a difference it makes not having Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
That was the guy he was always throwing to. So
Yeah, if you needed 20
now,
yards, I was this guy.
like they've got nobody who can get separation between Ayuk and McCaffrey. Those were his safety blankets. That's where the majority of his passes went. And all of a sudden, the guy who led them to an NFC title game and a Super Bowl in his first 2 seasons and has a big contract coming up. Now you got to wonder, is he going to get a max deal? Who's going to pay him? Like, what's his deal going to look like?
Well, I know talking to people that work in the organization, John Lynch, midway through the season, was kicking himself not moving off Debo. Like, they were trying to move him before the season. He thought, you know what, I'll keep the band together one more year and then we'll trade him next year. Because Ayuk, they're tied to Ayuk now for years to come. And Debo's value is just the bottom of the barrel now. That guy, he is not that good right now.
Get out early. That's the mantra. Get out early. Buffalo at the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are 4.5. Look, this was a decent move off of the Sunday night Superman performance by Josh Allen. It opened at 3.5. You wanted to bet the Bills at 3.5. Now it's at 4.5. You made a great point on Sunday night. The Bills don't tend to lose these kinds of games. I interpreted that as them being a favorite in a spot where you normally like to take the dog. So I looked it up. Allen is a favorite of more than 3, 55% against the spread in his career. On the road, 57% against the spread. So you're not wrong.
We talked just the matchup too, right? We were saying this Bills team, their identity of running the ball down teams' throats. You saw it there on Sunday night. Like it's incredible how Joe Brady's transformed that offense. Where I feel like such an idiot. Even though I did take their over coming to the season, it was just like, how did we doubt that offense with Josh Allen? It's just, he's so good. He's so unique. I mean, obviously he should be the MVP favorite right now. I mean, it's lined up perfectly too. Their division's so bad. If they can just survive these next 5 weeks and get that 1 seed, get Kansas City to come to Buffalo, it's just so lined up for them this year. Like, how do they not make the Super Bowl this year, this Bills team? I just, I love their defense, the way they're playing, but offensively, I'll never have fear when they're down. Like, they're just going to be a team that's never dead because they're just so in sync right now offensively, and Josh Allen's playing at such a high level. So yeah, wanted to be on the Rams. I joked I've lost a small house betting the Rams this season, and I'm not going to be sucked in, even though this is another spot that stinks. Like, this number stinks. I don't know how the Rams are going to cover it. The books, they believe the Rams are going to somehow cover this number, but I'm just totally off with this, where it's like, I think it's all because of Stafford that this number is what it is. If it's not all the respect we give to him, this number is easily 6.5. Stafford has not been the Stafford of the past. He's been terribly inconsistent this season, and like, he goes on little runs where he'll play great for a quarter, maybe get a couple of touchdowns, and then he'll just disappear for 2 or 3 quarters. He's just been so inconsistent this year. And this Bills team, I get it. People expect them to have a letdown game here, and I totally view that's why I wanted to be on the Rams here. It's like, how do you not have a letdown game? But with them chasing that 1 seed, Chad, and just how locked in Josh Allen is, I can't see it. So there's a couple 4s out there if you still want to grab it. I would. I think this Bills team is so good. On the flip side, this Rams team, we've seen it. They're just not that team we thought they were going to be coming this season. It doesn't matter that they have, 2 of the best receivers in football and a really good running game. They just are inconsistent offensively and defensively. They can't stop the run. We even saw it last week. Like, Taysom Hill going out was a gift for them because he was running it all over them, him and Kamara. So, yeah, totally off this Rams team. I would buy on this Bills spot.
Pass blocking for the Rams is the issue. We've talked about this specifically on Sunday night. What you just said, Stafford goes on these little streaks, but eventually they have that sack at the exact wrong time, or they can't get that extra yard at the exact wrong time, because the offensive line, even though they finally have all their starters back, it's just been terrible this year. So
yeah, I saw some stat. Last week was the first time in McVay's coaching career he was shut out in the first half.
Yeah, it's
you should go through the list of the quarterbacks he had scored points with in the first half in his career. It's just, something's wrong with that Rams offense.
Yeah, I think they're good against bad teams, and they can get away with it against bad teams. But mediocre to great teams, it's not going to happen. What's interesting here with the Bills, obviously they're a huge public side, but it's the money, meaning the professionals have come in hard on this team. 61% of the tickets are on Buffalo, 84% of the money. When there's that big of a discrepancy, that tells you that the public is obviously coming in, but the professionals have been coming in at a very high rate on the Buffalo Bills. So they'll be on.
Yeah,
our
the 3.5
list.
was a bad number to open.
Yep. Hey, folks, a reminder, we've got the Favorites Podcast Watch Party on December 12th, coming up fast. It's 9 days from today, a week from this Thursday. We're going to the Wicked Wolf in Center City, Philadelphia. We're doing free drinks, Q&A with me and Simon. Matt Mitchell will be there too. People can ask him why he's so grumpy lately. Doors open at 6 p.m. We're all going to stick around, and we're going to watch the Thursday night football game between these Rams, who we love, and the Niners. It's turning into a fantastic matchup. We're all going to want to hang out for this. We're going to bet. We're going to have a few drinks. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a really good time. RSVP, please RSVP for this free event. Okay? Check out the link in either the podcast or YouTube episode description pages. Simon and I are tweeting it out. We're threading it out. We're blue skying it out. Wherever you are, we will be there. And you will all be with us at the Wicked Wolf in Center City, Philadelphia, December 12th. Doors open, 6 p.m. Chargers at Kansas City. Chargers were 4.5 on Sunday night. We liked it then. They moved to 4 at Bet365. They're at 3.5 at a lot of other books. I think we still take the Chargers at plus 3.5, and that's sort of the line in the sand.
Yeah, obviously we both love the way more 4.5 because this game is going to come down to the very end. The way they've always played each other, it's always very tight and comes down to the last possession. And the fear here is something you kind of nailed last week that I underrated a little bit, that J.K. Dobbins was, a difference maker for that Chargers team. Like, he really was. You saw last week, that was by far the worst Chargers game of the season against an Atlanta defense is not that good. Certainly not on the level of this Kansas City team. You expect this Kansas City team to bounce back after their worst defensive performance of the year, in my opinion, in back-to-back weeks, right? They struggled against Carolina. They just struggled against the Raiders. It's like, I can't believe it. It's like this is not the Spags defense we're used to, especially at this point in December. So this is really me and you trusting the numbers and the fact that this Chiefs team just plays games close, especially these Chargers games, where it's like even when they were much better than this Chargers team, you know, Herbert would always find a way to keep it close and lose always in the last possession. I mean, he always loses somehow on the last possession against this Chiefs team. So I don't know if I'll be in our money line round robin the Chargers, but at 4, 3.5, I'm with you, Chad. I would take still the Chargers at that number. This line should just be 3. We're getting good value here. We'll see if the books keep shifting it because, you know, we both knew Sunday night this was going to be a heavy public side and professional side, this Chargers team. Just everyone was watching that Black Friday's game, and they're totally off this Chiefs team. I mean, it's just a week of the pundits saying, Lions, too many injuries. They're done for the season. This is the banged up bad Chiefs team. They're not the same Chiefs team as last year, even though at this exact point, this Chiefs team last year was even worse. It's just a week of everyone's shitting on this Chiefs team. So that's kind of the fear, right, Chad? It's like, at what point does public perception overrate and adjust too much on this Chiefs team? I don't think they have yet at this point. Like we just said, this number should be 3. It's 4. Go grab the 4.
A lot of injuries for this Chargers team, not just J.K. Dobbins. I think that is a big deal. They do not have an effective running back on the roster right now. And their only receiving threat is Lad McConkey. So a lot of challenges for them. I actually worry more about their injuries than I do about the Lions because the Lions have, I think, more offensive firepower. Whereas, and the cluster of injuries for the Lions as comps, because both teams have a lot of injuries, is on defense. Whereas the Chargers have a cluster of injuries, but at key positions in the defensive backfield, along the defensive line, in the offensive backfield, different spots. So it's to me, it's not a guarantee that we want to take the Chargers. Last game on the board. Cincinnati at Dallas. Dallas is at 5.5. I liked the Cowboys on Sunday night, and try as I might, I still don't hate it. And, you know, the defense is getting better with Micah Parsons, and the Bengals pass blocking is just fucking terrible. Like bottom 5, according to Pro Football Focus. I don't think it's going to get under 5. It's not an exact decision. But I still don't hate the Cowboys.
I don't either. It's just our fear here is if this does turn into a shootout, we're probably cooked, right? There's no world that Cooper Rush can keep up with Joe Burrow. But you just said it. Like, this is – who the hell are this Bengals team to be catching this many points? I don't care if it is Cooper Rush. It's like, okay, if it was 3.5, that would make sense. At 5.5, and you liked it at 6, which I agreed with. I was like, okay, it's 6. This is a good number. Unfortunately, the professionals agreed with Chad. They've bet this now. It is 5.5. I'll pass on it now and just hopefully it goes back to 6. And if it doesn't get to 6, you know, I know I'm going to talk myself into taking Dallas just because this number's too big. But for contest purposes, I wouldn't put this in unless it was 6.5.
The professionals always agree with Chad. It's like a recurring theme on this show. Other than when he's not remembering the Giants not having their most dominant player on defense, he's generally pretty sharp.
Locked in.
Well said in so few words. All right. Simon says, is Cleveland plus 6.5? Exact decision. Minnesota minus 5.5. We're feeling foxholey. We'll confirm it on
Minnesota. You get 5, right? About 365.
What did I say for Minnesota? I said 5.5. I meant 5.
Yeah.
We're feeling foxholey about Miami at minus 6.5. We'll confirm that as the number hopefully goes down. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365 now. New Bet365 customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code favorites. Deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Simon and I will return with our next episode of The Favorites on the Action Network YouTube page, 11 a.m. Eastern, Thursday, to talk Week 14 best bets. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe. Leave us 5 stars. Say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Till next time. Love you.